Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Eons. Welcome to Strange Eons Radio. That's Eric over there.
Hello.
That's Vanessa over there.
Hello.
I guess that makes me Kelly. The other night, you guys, I was going out with my buddy Phil, who's also a listener to the show.
Yes.
And I had decided to throw on my jacket, which is, the writer's outfit with the jeans, the jacket, shirt, and all that. And I put my hand in the pocket and I pulled out my Crypticon wristband.
Oh, jeez. So it's been that long.
Which tells you how long it's been since I've worn this particular jacket. But it made me think then, Eric, what's going on with Crypticon? It's coming up very quickly, end of May, right?
Yeah. No, it looks like it's coming together fairly well. We've got, as far as guests, we've got like the TV shows Chucky. We've got the two returning people from Chucky, the guy from the original movie and the lady from 2 are both showing up. And I forgot her name, the woman from Evil Dead TV series.
Oh, yes. I saw that she was on the guest list.
And she has surpassed, she has become our number one most positively reacted to guest.
Oh, cool.
The preceding person, unfortunately, canceled for reasons you'll understand as soon as I say his name. George Romero was our number one reacted person.
Yeah.
And now she has become.
Wow.
And so a lot of people are really looking forward to seeing her.
Number one reaction from me, of course, I can't remember her name, but the gorgeous blonde woman from 90210.
Yeah, she's from Chucky. She's the
is she the one you were talking about?
Yeah, she's in the...
Man, I had such a crush on her back in the 90210 days. You would have loved me back then, Vanessa. I loved 90210 when it was first on the air.
He wasn't the only one. I watched 90210 for the first, I think, 3 seasons, and then I kind of got a little bored.
My mom was obsessed with 90210. I watched it through my entire childhood, and then Melrose Place.
Melrose Place, nerd.
All I remember about Melrose Place is, it was I guess there was an apartment unit, but that one of the actresses was Vanessa Williams, and I remember thinking, there are just too many of us.
There's like a third Vanessa Williams. Not
there
the lady
are so many. But yeah, there's a third one there.
But like famous.
I mean, I'm the third one.
Famous.
I'm the
never enough
one.
Vanessa Williams, like I always say on this show.
Dana De Lorenzo.
Yes,
and Alex Vincent, Bill Moseley, Noah Hathaway, which is an interesting one.
Oh shit! Got to break out my Battlestar Galactica poster.
Yeah, Christine Ellies, Phil Foncaro, and more. It's looking pretty good. And as you know, I do the film festival, and that's looking pretty good. We're we're in our late phase. But if you're a previous film festival person, or if you're from Idaho, Washington, or Oregon, you can get a hold of me and get a waiver code. So
excellent. That's cool.
That's incredible.
We're very close to getting the most submissions we've ever had. So
wow.
Doing really well this year. So let's see, there's something else going on. Oh, Strange Eons Radio will be doing another show.
Yay!
I wanted to talk to you guys about this. So last time we did what I would call a very successful episode there. It was highly attended. And we did kind of a side dive on the thing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we should do another John Carpenter film.
Right, is that all right with you? Can you do that, Vanessa? Sure.
I would be okay with that.
And I don't know which one yet, but the unfortunate thing is the more interesting things to talk about are his films that we loved that bombed.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
So maybe a Big Trouble in Little China episode, or maybe
I've only seen Big Trouble once, so I wouldn't hate doing a bigger one on that.
Big Trouble once.
I know. I did not grow up with it. So.
There's also though a lot of information about that film, so maybe that's not the one. But we should all discuss it. I wouldn't mind doing a side dive on Christine or something like that. But he's such an interesting character to talk about.
Yeah,
he is.
And it's so cool to see, because In the Mouth of Madness has always been one of my favorites from him.
Right.
And it was one that was vilified almost when it came out. It's come up better and stuff. And
Why was it vilified? Just because it
was not
weird?
liked. It got really bad reviews and didn't do very well. I was happy to see Dr. Rebecca McKendry put it number 1 on her list of 90s.
Oh, cool.
That's so
and
cool.
weren't you telling me that she's going to be there at Crypticon?
That's the hope. There's the official announcements. That usually means they've signed, they're going to come. So then we mention them. And then there's people that are still being worked. We don't know for sure, because I know she started to direct and do some stuff.
Okay.
Man, I hope so.
Yeah.
It would be great to see her and Elric at the show.
Yeah, they do the
Colors of the
Dark podcast, and I really, really enjoy that. Well, cool. Let's keep everybody up to date on that as we get closer and closer. Come see us there.
It's the end of May, so if you're interested, DoubleTree SeaTac in Seattle. I mean, you'd have to, if you got to fly or whatever, we are literally, and I mean the real meaning of literally, across the street from the airport.
Right.
Sure is.
So you don't have to find a way to get into city or anything like that.
And everything is coming down, so the mask mandates will most likely not be in effect, and it'll feel like a real convention again.
Yeah, we'll just see what we're hoping. It's a constant conversation in the group of planners. Like, well, what do we do for what we put online, and we'll just wait and see what's going on. But it definitely is headed that way.
Sure seems like it. You guys, I watched a couple of movies. One of them I liked. One of them I did not like. Have you guys seen the new Scream?
No. Oh, yes, I have. Jeez.
Nope.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was fine.
I know I'm trying to remember. Where do you like the original? Like,
I love the first one.
Yeah.
And I think I really liked like 3 or 4. I can't remember. One of them really surprised me that I was like, oh, this is quite good.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think it's a series that has kind of played itself out.
Yeah, I think it was really groundbreaking at the time because it was looking inwards into the horror industry and kind of, laughing at stuff that Wes Craven had already done, but also making a good, interesting horror film at the same time. Yeah. And we've done that now. Yeah. Done.
Yeah.
Check it off the bucket list of movies. So
I think we've talked before on the podcast of how important that was in the early 90s to horror, period.
Yeah.
But the spawns that came off of Scream got really rough there for a while.
Yeah, and so quick too.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you think about? So my biggest issue with the film was, I thought the lead sucked. She was unwatchable.
I would say that I was surprised at how bad most of the acting was.
Sure.
Considering that there were some very good actors in this film.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that means. That generally tells me that a director is pushing them either too fast or something. I thought that there were a couple of clever little things, with Rian Johnson being the director of the Stab movie that everybody was angry about. And I was like, okay, that's
nice.
That's a neat little callback, and that's kind of the meta thing that Scream does.
Yeah.
But it was, as I like to say, mustard after the meal.
Who says that?
Our Dutch listeners will know that. Right? It's mustard after the meal. Too little, too late.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a couple of jokes in there that still stick with me that I enjoyed, but a lot of the characters I didn't care for. A lot of the twists and turns I thought were dumb.
Not twist. This is neither twisty nor turny.
This is a pretty straight road, y'all. I can see the city ahead. Fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Keep vamping because
I think our buddy Steve, not Steve, Crypticon Steve, walked out of the movie theater.
Whoa.
He hated it so much. I think it was that one.
He's just not woke enough. That's the problem. This film is very woke.
I don't think that's the problem.
It's a little wokeness.
He is incredibly critical on slasher films. Friday the 13th is his favorite series of films, I believe.
Oh.
And so when it comes to slashers, he is brutal.
That's so funny, though, because the first Friday the 13th is surprisingly, I mean, I love it, But when I first saw it, I was like, this is slow and a little lackadaisical. And then eventually it picks up kind of, but it was, it's
more of a mystery film.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, it's got some cool shots.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting because we were saying a lot of people hate it. A lot of people loved it.
Really?
78% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. I'm
So,
surprised.
I guess I was really
You know what?
surprised.
That's a COVID response, though.
Is it?
That's like a lot of people. I got out of my house and I ate popcorn.
That 78% is critics.
Oh, never mind. I take it all back. It's real. It's real, y'all. Well, as I mentioned last week, I made the mistake of taking on way too many jobs this month, and I have had pretty much no time to do anything other than work.
Nice. That's a good problem in a way, you know?
It's a great problem to have, and it's starting to come to a conclusion, which is so good because I need to sleep really bad. But
This right here is probably how we ended up with the All Disco episode.
Is it?
Didn't have the time to reply fast enough.
I know, exactly. I did not see it till 8 hours later and it was way too late. You guys were really invested. So yeah, but one thing that I've been really excited about, Kelly, you had gotten a very cool toy that you showed off here to us.
Goddamn right I did, but I thought we were going to keep that between the three of us.
It was green. It was mean.
Oh, Jesus.
It was a swamp thing.
Oh, I like the rhyme.
It was totally accidental.
It was a pretty cool. I think it's a McFarlane Toys swamp thing.
Yes, yeah, and that got me, thinking. I've only really read the Alan Moore Swamp Thing, and I was like, I just want to do a little deep dive into more Swamp Thing, and I have gone far into the pool.
Nice.
Oh, tell me what you're reading.
Well, I just picked up is it Nancy Collins?
Oh, I love Nancy Collins'
Oh
run.
my God.
Yeah.
So I found this hardbound edition of all of her Swamp Thing work. It is beautiful. It was also natively like $150, and I found it for like $70.
Oh, damn.
So I was pretty happy about it. I was like, I mean, if I bought 7 volumes of
Sure.
thing, that'd be the same. So so I went ahead and picked that up. I started thumbing through it, really excited to dive in there. I picked up the Tom King one-off of Swamp Thing in the winter scene, helping a little boy. So I'm excited about that. And I've just really started, collecting different elements, some of the best of stuff that I'm finding on various lists. And I made a Swamp Thing shelf. So
Nice.
eBay has...
Do you have a Swamp Thing figure to put on it?
I've got one coming.
There you go. Yes.
So there hopefully will be.
Well, now you're my Swamp Thing expert. So when does that issue 2 of Green Hell come out?
You know what? This is the
Yeah, no
problem.
shit.
We have so many publishing issues right now that even when they tell you when something is coming out, the chances of it actually showing up that month are so slim. So I think it's supposed to be pretty soon. I think it's like March, April, but who knows? Because paper and shipping and printing and everything is a giant mess. So
Right.
I've just literally been going into comic shops and being like, well, it's been a month since last time. There's nothing new. And then I'll go in a week later and it's like everything's new and already off the shelves. So it's so hard to predict.
With you kind of got me into reading the Black Label stuff, and
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was just too anxious. I was like, maybe Black Label doesn't come out monthly. It's
No,
so
nothing-
cool that it
nothing
takes
comes out
longer
monthly.
to make.
There you go. Give the artist time.
It could be. It could actually honestly partly be that because they're such one-offs and specialties and they're pretty good writers who are behind a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I've been trying to read Human Target and I missed one and then had to get it from like an online seller to get the one that I had gone in I went in multiple days in 1 week and was like, how did I miss this one issue?
I love that you still do comics like it's the 90s. You say take your time about
Except not, because I assume you have a regular comic place you go to.
No, I've been going to a couple different ones because my favorite one, which is Subspace, it closes at 5 p.m.
Ah,
Oh, well,
Sucks.
yeah, that's
So
rough.
I do Arcane and Subspace, and then I do some online, and I go to the Everett one.
do they not? Oh, so it's not worth it to you to like set up a subscription box or
I'm
something?
just really scared, and I don't know how to do it, and I'm afraid to talk to the people at the desk.
They would.
Would
They
you
would
like
really
one
hate
of
to know
us?
they've got guaranteed money coming from a client.
Yeah, yes.
I don't know what to say. I'm like, I don't know.
You go, do you set up subscription boxes? And they say, yeah. What do you want? Then you tell them the comics and they pull it right when it gets there and put it into your box. And then you come in and pay for them.
See, I've known vaguely that something like this has existed for probably 10 to 15 years. And I am just so afraid of talking to these people because every time I do, they're like, oh, you want a comic, huh? Have you ever read Saga? Have you ever read The Sandman? And I'm like, fuck you.
See, that's your
Fuck you right
that's
in
your
the ass.
opportunity then to correct if you run into that ass. Like Dreaming was still around.
Right.
I would definitely send you there because he did not have that.
Oh, his people did.
His people, yeah, but
His people were dicks. And
oh really?
I
I
hated
didn't.
them.
It must be because I stopped going there at some point.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. It was always him. He didn't ever have any people when I was
Sure.
buying from there.
Yeah.
But then you get to tell these assholes, no, shitheads, these are the comics I want.
I did at one point say, if it has Vertigo on the spine, I've read it. So please don't recommend anything that says Vertigo, which now doesn't exist.
I'm
But
just a little surprised to hear this still happens. I mean,
Yeah.
when we were
Oh,
down at the Lovecraft Film Festival, we went to Powell's Books and I was in
Yeah.
the comic section and the only people in there were smoking hot chicks. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is not the world of comimics I grew up in.
yeah, I mean,
No.
that's Powell's though. I mean, that's Portland, Oregon. If you go into I had this happen at the Tacoma Mall. There's a little comic shop outside of it
Mhm.
and they were just fucking dicks.
Huh.
I was so angry by the end of it that I was like, you guys forget it. You know what? The library gives me more respect. I will go to the librarians who are all like, elderly or mothers or whatever and go, I would like some comics, and they'll look it up and tell me which ones are good.
Well, we have Archie, young lady. We have Casper.
I've read
He's a
Archie and
friendly
Casper. Okay, I read them.
Those were my gates.
Those were small gates that
Big comics.
led to bigger gates.
Wow.
Anyways,
but having a subscription's a lot of fun. I did that for a while.
Yeah.
You just walk in.
It's also super expensive after a while.
Yeah,
She's
that's
like,
the
oh, you
problem.
might as well start putting this one in my box too.
Yeah.
I know, but the Black Label, it's really been like my drug because I don't normally do singles, but I really am enjoying these weird, oversized, interesting pieces. So they're like art.
Very cool. I watched the second half of the drive-in theater, Joe Bob Briggs, Frankenhooker.
Yeah.
Also one I thought I had seen, but when it gets to the scene with the hookers exploding, I realized, no, I have not seen this movie. Because a lot of it feels familiar because I've seen dozens of clips from it and all kinds of shit over the years.
Yeah.
That is a hell of a film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than it should be.
Yes.
That was exactly, I had the same experience. I had never seen it. And thankfully, Joe Bob, has introduced me to a lot of stuff I had not come across.
He's pretty good at that.
So much better than it should be. And that lady should have been an actress. Like she should have gone on to be in stuff. And she nailed Frankenhooker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Yeah.
What's that?
date?
Yeah. Well, this one he had Frank Henenlotter and James Lawrence, the lead guy, on the show doing the interviews and stuff.
That's cool.
He brought Joe Bob a prosthetic boob from the explosion, so he could keep. But he's an interesting guy. I had not realized that he started working with I blanked on his name, but the guy who ran Something Weird Video.
Mhm.
He'd started working with him like in the mid to late 90s on cataloging and helping him find rare and hard to find movies. Yeah, if you haven't seen Frankenhooker, again, one of the great video box sets boxes ever
Yes.
released.
Yes.
Loved when that first came out. You could go into a video store and you always hear, "Want a date?"
Yeah.
Because the box came out, for those of you that aren't as ancient as we are, you could press a button on it and it would say, "Want a date?"
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's such good marketing.
oh, it was. like the movie's better than you expect, but the marketing on the director himself's like, yeah, the marketing was so much better than that film deserved. He's talking about he remembered coming into a store in New York, which was one of the earliest stores to sell videotapes, like Suncoast became, and walking upstairs and hearing all these people go, "Want a date? Want a date? Want a date?" So yeah, Frankenhooker, better than you expect.
Yes.
Put that on the box.
Yeah.
I checked out on Netflix a French film called Don't Kill Me.
Oh.
Oh, that sounds really familiar.
It popped up on my You Might Like, and
Okay.
I watched it, and I'll tell you guys, I did like it.
Oh.
It is kind of it's a new take on a vampire story. But I almost didn't want to say that because I feel like enough people will go, nah, not interested. I really enjoyed it. They don't turn into vampires by being bitten or anything like that. And the word vampire is never used.
Oh,
But they do require blood to keep living. I think they call them over dead or something like that instead of undead and anything. But really interesting, really gory, really well acted. Looks very low budget, but I've just had a blast with it.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I've heard. Did you say French?
Yes.
I've heard and I think Shudder's got a bunch of them. There's like a new mini wave of, like, I don't know, 15 some odd 20 years ago with
The French Extreme.
yeah, had some amazing films. But I've heard there's sort of another wave of that has come up.
Wow.
Yeah, this was not extreme, but it was very good, and it was more, I guess I would say, is action horror, because there is a group of people, an organization that hunts these overdead down,
Oh, okay.
and so it's a lot of running and trying to escape.
But while you were talking, I looked that up on IMDb, and I say, looks like maybe you don't want to hold the IMDb images against the film because it looks massively like a Twilight.
Oh,
the way it's advertised.
Well, I almost wondered because the guy that she's with in the beginning, who ends up turning her into an overdead with this bizarre drug, he looks so much like
Pattinson
that I kind of did a double take, and I was like, this could not have been accidental. So anyway, I liked it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm still trudging through Archive 81, still
nice.
enjoying it.
I would have thought you'd burn through that.
I did, and then I
remember last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched one episode of Love is Blind. I was about to watch Archive 81, and I was like, I want to pay attention. And then that happened to me. So I should be. I'll probably, by the time next week is done, I'll have finished it. But
Vanessa, never change.
Yes.
I'm glad you appreciate my quirks. We go with quirks.
How many episodes of Archive 81 are you up to now?
I feel like I should be near the end, but I think I'm only halfway.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I feel like enough has happened that it should be pretty much done, but I feel like there's a few more than I thought.
I can kind of see that because it although I thought it was good the whole way through, it moves to a certain point, and then the last two episodes just ramp up.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we're still definitely in a world building situation, I feel like. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I remember before I mentioned that I'd been playing a lot of Halo.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I'm excited to see March 24th. Paramount Plus is releasing a live action Halo show.
Oh, I saw
TV show
trailer or something,
and it looks good.
Yeah,
and it looks like were you played much Halo, Vanessa?
I played the first 3 games, but I have not. Yeah, I haven't played anything recently.
So it looks fantastic. It looks like at least in the trailer, the animation of the weird creatures he kills and the Master Chief blend really well into the real people. But, who knows if they crank that up a little bit for the trailer.
Sure.
But the amount of money Paramount Plus has spent on Star Trek shows, they probably dumped a lot into this one. I mean, it is Xbox's largest game by a long ways.
Yeah.
So So I can tell you, I'm looking forward to that.
Hey, speaking of that kind of stuff, now that I got to give Mortal Kombat back, if you guys want to loan me any PlayStation 4 games,
I only have one, but I do kind of want to loan it to you.
Oh,
Resident
it?
Evil 7.
oh, okay.
I've never even heard of it.
It takes place in a kind of it's basically Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Remember, last Resident Evil game I played was 2,
It's
but
very
not
different.
the new 2, from 20 years ago.
original 2.
Yeah. Pure 2. No, it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Really?
Yeah. Really creepy.
Because now I really hate myself because I'm on Amazon looking at PlayStation games and going,
You know, there's
do I
like
want that Into the Spider-Verse game? That's really highly rated.
You do. It's so good. There's also a subscription for PlayStation where you get like a few free games every month as well. I don't know if that's something you're interested in.
Okay, much as you are terrified of talking to a comic book owner and asking about a subscription box,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, not so much terrified as it says you must set up a PlayStation account for this. And I'm like, I wish there was a robot here that would tell me how to do that because I don't know how to do that.
I would do it online
Yeah.
and then transfer your details.
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
You can
I
just go
see.
to the PlayStation Store website and do it there. And then you can even add stuff and do whatever you want to do there. And then you just have to log in.
3 games a month. That sounds expensive.
So I usually wait until Black Friday, and weirdly, third-party sellers can sell you PlayStation subscriptions.
Oh,
So I usually get mine for cheaper than I don't know what the actual amount is, but I usually get it for I think $50 or something.
oh,
Yeah, 50 or
Interesting.
60.
While we're on things, let me ask real quick. I don't know. There's one I was looking at that looks incredibly cool, but seems to be unbelievably polarizing.
Mm.
And any Xbox fans that are listening, let me know. The Elden Ring.
Oh my God.
Have you played that one?
My partner's been playing it nonstop.
Oh, well, that's.
And
that's-
I'm trying to concentrate on my edits and I keep hearing screaming and yelling coming from downstairs.
is it him or the game?
It's him.
Oh,
It's him. And so I keep going down. I'm like, you can't do that. Like someone's going to call the cops. I'm sorry. I know you're really invested in this game, but you got to stop. Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And it is much like the predecessors of that same game, the same studio,
Mhm.
really hard.
Yeah, that's what I've
Really
heard.
hard game. I don't know if it's the kind of game I would personally enjoy because I don't like dying and losing progress. And it's the kind of game where that might happen. So, but I don't know. It's beautiful, weird,
shall see.
beautiful game.
all right, you nerds. Why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we are going to be talking about Christopher Lee movies.
When Wormtongue rises up and comes up behind Saruman to stab him, of course, it was my job as director to talk to Christopher Lee and to explain to him what I wanted. So I started to go into this long explanation about what sort of sound he should make when he got stabbed.
I seem to recall that I did say to Peter, have you any idea of what kind of noise happens when somebody's stabbed in the back? And I said, well, because I do. It's not, like that. It's because the breath's driven out of your body.
He proceeded to sort of talk about some very clandestine part of World War II.
He used to be in the British Secret Service, whatever they were called, the OSS.
He seemed to have expert knowledge of exactly the sort of noise that they make, and so I just sort of didn't push the subject any further. I just said, well, you obviously know what to do, Christopher, so I'm sure you'll do it great, and he did.
We have returned. Eric, this was your
Yes.
subgenre pick.
Yes, it is. Christopher Lee.
Cool.
Start off with
Wait a second. Christopher Lee?
Yeah.
Shit.
Uh-oh.
All right, we got to
Talk
take a
about
break here.
Courtney Lee
I thought
or
we were
something.
doing Bruce Lee movies.
Oh, go right ahead. It's going to run out a short little bit of Christopher Lee stats before I begin. Well, you probably know who he is. He's been in 282 credits spanning 8 decades. Some of the most famous franchises ever. He's in Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, James Bond, Sherlock Holmes, Police Academy,
Is he?
the Marvel movies. He was in the 1979 Captain America 2.
That's right.
Sure.
And of course, Dracula, Frankenstein, and all the Hammer movies. So just putting out there, you have seen Christopher Lee in something.
Sure.
The movie I picked, however, is in none of those categories. The 1967's The Torture Chamber of Dr. Sadism.
Human beings so horribly slaughtered in the dungeon of doom. Grisly sacrifices for a maniac's vengeance. Men without souls whose artificial blood keeps their cruel brains alive. See just how far maniacal mistreatment can go. It's a new, bizarre shocker in the master of the macabre, Edgar Allan Poe. Christopher Lee in his greatest horror role since Dracula. When the dead count's mangled body rises from its coffin, a new siege of the sinister starts.
I needed the blood of 13 women. I found 12. They struggled against death. It was that desire to live.
It's far out, fantastic and frightening. The creeping, crawling terror that haunts those marked for diabolical disaster. Here's the thrills of more than a dozen horror movies all rolled into one. Nobody will ever escape from the blood demon. We dare you to keep watching the screen.
Ooh. Great title.
Rotten Tomatoes of no critics and 41 from the audience. This was directed by Harold Rennell, who's got 70 director's credits, including Deadly Jaws, Hellhounds of Alaska, Chariots of the Gods, and Face of the Frog.
Ooh. Face of the Frog sounds not scary at all.
I don't know what that is. Written by Manfred R. Kohler, who wrote 13 Days to Die, The Blood of Fu Manchu, Agent 505, Death Trap in Beirut, and a bunch of other stuff. It's given a sub-story credit to Edgar Allan Poe for The Pit and the Pendulum, which is a big old stretch. And of course, stars Lex Baker, Die Slowly, You'll Enjoy It More. And Code 7, Victim 5, Captain Falcon, and played Tarzan 4 times.
Code 7, Victim 5, is that like a score or?
That's the title of the film he was in.
Never heard of that.
I think it's mid-60s. Yeah, it's a great name. But he played Tarzan through, I think it was the first couple of years of the 50s or last couple of years of the 50s and early couple of years of the 60s, I think it was.
Was that for Hammer Films or, do you know? Okay.
Karen Dorr, who was in You Only Live Twice, The Carpet of Horror, The Terrible People, and Pitchler's books are not in order.
Okay. Okay.
And of course, Christopher Lee. This movie opens with just a great studio login of the company with and then the beginning of Christopher Lee has been captured. And he's too nasty to be decapitated. But they're going to draw and quarter him.
Ooh.
Is he Dr. Satan?
Dr. Sadism.
Dr. Sadism. All right.
So he is preparing for that. So they put on one of those iron mask kind of things on him first. And then the entire credits is him walking through the dungeon to get to the horses. And, it's a late 60s. So this is a long opening credits. Like, not a very long running movie. And you see where you're padding the hell out of it with this. I'm curious because Christopher Lee actually ends up not being in this movie a lot. He's not back in it until like 20 or 30 minutes to near the end almost. I'm curious if that's actually him walking through those tunnels.
Sure.
Because there's no reason to put the mask on. The mask is amusing because it's smiling. That's interesting. And just before he's torn apart, they do a great shot of him as he lifts off the ground, and then they cut to probably 20 years later with a guy drawing. It's a drawing of his arms and legs being popped off.
Cool.
Oh.
I'm sorry, his name is not Dr. Sadism, though. It's actually Count Regula.
Ooh.
Regular.
Has kind of a familiar sound to that when you say it out loud.
Yeah, but it's also not nearly as terrifying as Dr. Sadism.
No,
Not at
I'm
all.
like, is he like a health doctor? Like, here, take these, drink this prune juice.
So the hero of the show is actually Lex Baker, who is a hero. This is one of the most square-jawed, rustly-voiced, blonde-haired studmen you'll see on movies. I can see how he played Tarzan multiple times. And he has stage presence. He is on screen. And he's actually really cool to watch. And he finds out that he is maybe related to this Count Regula. And he needs to go find out what is going on. During the moments of drama of finding about going to the castle and learning about his history, the music is so bad, it's hilarious. It should be like Heidi or something like that this music is playing over. So I'm kind of like, I don't know what you want me to feel in this moment. So we'll just move forward. And surprise, surprise, he arrives at the castle or the town near the castle. Nobody wants to tell him where it is.
Ooh.
Nobody wants to take him. And as soon as he asks anybody, they close the doors or run away or whatever. You know, the classic. This is a very Hammer-esque film.
Mm.
Very strange scene. He finds like, well, this guy looks like he'll help me. And he walks up to this monk carrying a giant, large cross, like he's recreating the path of Jesus to get crucified. And I mean, it's huge. It's fairly funny looking. He knows everything, of course, and tells him all the stuff he needs to know. And learns that the owner of the castle, Count Regula, was executed for killing 12 virgins. But apparently he needed to kill 13.
Oops.
Oh.
Always that last one.
On the way to the castle, they finally get a coach that will drive them in that general area, and they meet up with some guy who says he's a religious dude, but turns out to be like a thief or something. But they're driving along, and in front of them suddenly is a carriage with two beautiful women alone with the things and gets set upon by thieves. So, hi, I must save you. My name's Lex.
Oh, God.
And he does, of course. And then they join him. So they're all traveling together now. And find out as they're traveling that she received the same letter.
Oh.
They get to the castle and it's been burned to the ground. So it's like, oh, well, that's not what I was expecting. They drive up and go to the castle, and there's the weird, creepy old guy telling him what had happened or something. But then it turns out he takes his makeup off and he's like hiding there for some reason. I'm like, okay. A couple really, really cool set pieces in this movie are as they're traveling they find out where they need to go. They go through like this, two different forests. One is like a forest of the dead. And in all the trees, there are parts of people sticking out.
Ooh.
Like you say, like arms and legs and torsos sticking out of, like they grew up inside the trees.
Oh, that sounds
Ooh.
cool.
It really is neat. I'm like, that makes this movie.
Mhm.
And then a little while later, they come to another forest like that, but it's everybody in there has been hung.
Mm.
So it's a whole bunch of hanging people. And it's also quite like, well, this is relatively unnerving for a film like this. The weird part is that as they're driving, of course, the driver gets a little upset. He's not sure he wants to do. But for some reason, when he finally loses his nerve, he stops in the middle of one of these forests. Like, you're going to get out and run home from here? But they end up keeping him. But it's like, maybe you should have gone a little further. The film is gorgeous. It is so well shot. It is just beautiful. This is Gothic done really well. The castle, when they finally get to what is his actual castle, I mean, it's obviously a set. It's the late 60s, but it is so well done and looks so wild. It's like, okay, this is worth watching just for this. Again, very Hammer looking, so there's bright colors and all that fun stuff going on. Somehow the guy captured the woman beforehand and drugged her, so now she thinks she lives in the castle. The drug doesn't last very long. It's very weird.
That's good drugs.
Yeah.
And the other lady she was traveling with, her servant lady, is tied up and looks like she's going to have giant spikes go into her when the dripping water fills the bucket far enough. But of course, Lex runs through at the last moment and grabs it as it's flying in the air. It's like, ha! I am still the hero here.
It's short for Lexington.
That's right.
Oh, jeez.
He figures out they've been drugged or something, so he's not going to drink the wine, because he just says it because a good wine goes flat if it's too old.
Oh, jeez.
I think so.
I'm not sure that's how it works.
Maybe if it's uncorked.
There you go. When you mentioned earlier you were watching a movie where I immediately thought I'd watched that French film because you referenced they're vampires, but they never call them vampires. They need blood.
Right.
That's this movie I was thinking about.
Interesting.
Is Count Regula needs blood. And he can't be killed by bullets. Neither can his little servant buddy. And here's where Lee finally shows up, where he somehow, I think it was the second Hammer film, or like Risen from the Grave, I believe, where he's in the grave and they pour blood on him and he comes back.
Yeah.
Well, this one, he's laying in what looks like a glass-covered tomb, and the guy has green blood, which he pours on top of the glass, and that this brings back. Should it at least go to him?
Well, wait a second. More importantly, what bleeds green?
Exactly. I don't know.
Oh.
And they never really
More
explain.
importantly, so he survived being drawn and quartered?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's fine.
I just wanted that.
He's all sewn back together or something. I don't know.
Okay. Just curious.
One weird thing is apparently he needs to do, this lady is going to be his 13th victim, of course.
Yes.
And it has to be on Good Friday. I don't think I have ever watched another movie that mentions Good Friday more often. It just keeps coming up again and again. I was like, why?
Jeez.
But
this would have been a perfect movie for our Good Friday episode.
Yeah, there you go.
I feel like Palm Sunday is a better day to talk about murder than Good Friday, where anyway, whatever.
Palm, that seems like maybe a martial arts kind of day. Palm Strike.
Oh my God.
Boy, we're just burning hell, aren't we? The music, again, does no favors towards this film, and it is just weird. I'll let the ending be for you if you want to watch this. If you like Gothic films, this is definitely worth a watch. It's one of Lee's last, I think, European films before he went more to the U.S. And he's good in it. He's not in it much, but he's good in it. And that Lex guy makes up for it, though. Yeah. But again, if you like Gothic films, this is a beautiful, beautiful Gothic film. Let's see. Notes and trivia. Taglines. Unbelievable until you see it with your own eyes.
Ooh, I bet.
Beauties, the prey of a monster's desires.
What? Okay.
Exactly, yes. A mature person's trip through the ultimate and horrific wickedness.
Don't worry, censorship board. We're only appealing to adults.
Yeah, no, there's no nudity or violence really in this at all either. So it's kind of like, what? A new high in horror. Which seems like a good late 60s tagline.
Yeah.
Alternate titles. This one had a bunch. Castle of the Walking Dead, Blood-O-Rama, The Blood Demons, Blood of the Virgins, The Snake Pit and the Pendulum, Crimson Demon Inn, or Crimson Demon. Why? Because in Rhode Island at the time, you could not use the word blood in the advertising for films.
How funny.
Oh, I forgot to mention how the pit and the pendulum fall in. There's one scene where hero guy is tied to the floor and pendulum goes back and forth. That's it. There's no other relation to the story of the pit and the pendulum at all.
I mean, that's most of Pit and the Pendulum story, so it's all right.
Good point. The U.S. release, and I have no idea where, had 14 minutes cut from it. So if you saw this in the U.S. theaters, you saw a 70-minute movie.
Wow.
Advertising leaned heavy on the pit and the pendulum thing, of course. The wall paintings in the castle resemble the Last Judgment from Hieronymus Bosch film, so it looks cool. The art on the wall is actually really well done. It was shot in Munich, and the word vampire is never said in the movie. But I'd say this was a solid Christopher Lee effort.
Nice.
I'll check that out. That sounds cool.
Yeah. For my Christopher Lee movie, we're going to backtrack a little bit in time to 1959's The Mummy.
Egypt, 4,000 years ago. A land of strange rituals and savage cruelty. Many of their secrets are still hidden from the eyes of 20th century man. Secrets that protect their dead. Supernatural powers that once released can live again in our modern world. The Mummy, the living dead, bringing terror and death across 4,000 years. He was a high priest of the great god Karnak, until one night he attempted the ultimate in blasphemy. He was condemned to guard forever the princess he had loved and protect her from intruders.
Go now. Go and destroy those who desecrated the tomb of our princess. He who robs the graves of Egypt dies. He who robs the graves of Egypt dies.
Either of you see this movie?
I have not,
yeah.
but I want to see this very badly.
Yeah, very cool.
It's been a bit, but yeah.
I hadn't actually seen, I mean, aside from Brendan Fraser, I hadn't really seen any mummy related movies. So, yeah.
It's similar, right?
It's pretty much the same one. This had a Rotten Tomatoes score of 89% from critics and 63% from audience. It was made for 125,000 British pounds, and the box office had 857,243 admissions in France. So I don't know if there were that many people who went and saw it in France. I don't know what that equates to. That was the number.
Really weird.
Thanks, Wikipedia. This is directed by Terrence Fisher, who's done 65 Things.
Of course.
I'm right. Exactly. It's such a small, it's the Hammer family. It's another Hammer film. Devil Rides Out, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, Phantom of the Opera, and 2 episodes of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. This is written by Jimmy Sangster, who has done 75 Things, another well-known Hammer club member. He did Horror of Dracula, Horror of Frankenstein, Maniac, Curse of Frankenstein, The Snorkel.
Hey, I remember that one.
Yeah, Blood of Vampire, lots and lots of Hammer, and then ended up doing a lot of British TV. Starring Peter Cushing as John Banning. 131 Things. Peter Cushing, if you've seen Christopher Lee movies, you've probably seen at least one Peter Cushing movie.
Good point.
He's been in Star Wars as Grand Moff Tarkin. Sherlock Holmes. He played Sherlock before Benedict Cumberbatch stole his throne. Dr. Terror in Dr. Terror, Frankenstein in many of the Frankenstein films. And he did play Doctor Who in Doctor Who and the Daleks movie, which I did not know about. So that's exciting. This also stars Christopher Lee, weirdly, as the Mummy / Karis. We've already discussed what he's been in, so I will move swiftly on. Yvonne Furnau as Isabel / Princess Ananka. She's been in 42 things, including Repulsion and La Dolce Vita. Eddie Byrne as Inspector Mulrooney, 106 things, including Star Wars as General Willard. Also in Island of Terror, Running Man, the 1963 version, and a mix of TV and films. And last but not least that I will mention, George Pastel as Mahim Bey, the Egyptian guy. He's been in 81 things, including the Saint TV series, Doctor Who. He had a recurring role, and he played a lot of Indians, Italians, Middle Easterners, actually born in Cyprus, though. So this film is actually kind of appropriate. So the plot, the year is 1895. The place is Egypt, shockingly for a mummy film. A team of family archaeologists, including Stephen Banning, not that one, and his brother Joseph Wemple, are on the hunt for the lost tomb of the Princess Ananka, the high priestess of the god Karnak. Along with them is Stephen's son, John, who has injured his leg. I think it's broken, and is basically hanging out in a tent a bunch. And they're mostly just talking about him and not, oh, remember what happened to that kid of yours 2 days ago? We should probably get him to a doctor because otherwise he's going to limp forever. Ha, 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 ha. So you don't see Peter Cushing for a hot minute. It's also very strange because I think they're trying to promote him as like a young, attractive, maybe early 20s man. He is like well into balding. So I was like, they're like, he's gonna grow up with a limp leg if you don't get him to a doctor. I'm like, that is an adult man. He should be making his own decisions, frankly, about his health. So his father doesn't want to press him to go and get his legs figured out because they're so close to opening the tomb. Once they believe they found it and are about to open it, one of the locals shows up and starts to yell at him. This is Mehmet. He gives them the grave warning as they're about to go in that they shall basically run into a terrible fate, and says, "You'd do well to remember the old Egyptian saying, 'He who robs the grave of Egypt dies.'" It's like, what a saying.
Oh, all right. Kind of.
Yeah.
Not cryptic at all.
No, pretty straightforward. It's really, anyway. So Stephen and Joseph, of course, go ahead and proceed in. They get inside and basically everything is perfectly preserved. This is a hell of a very standard Egypt set. Everything's just looks pristine and perfect and lots of turquoise and it just looks so fake, so unbelievably fake. But whatever. It's cool, kind of, I guess. I don't know. It feels like you're in a Disneyland ride or like in an ancient Egypt escape room. Okay, just go over here and press the mummy. So it's just really on the nose. So, of course, Joseph is so excited. He wants to run back to John and let him know and get him to show off the inside of this place. But while he's gone, Stephen starts looking around, poking around, discovers an ancient scroll. And then suddenly from the outside of the tomb, a giant scream is heard. The helpers rush in, which are just Egyptians, rush in and discover that Stephen is sprawled out on one of the tombs in a total catatonic state. 3 years later, we go back to talking instead of showing. We have John and Joseph talking about whatever did happen to your dad. I don't know. He's in a home now. He never really did recover. It was such a strange thing. What do you think? I don't know. Could have been a stroke. Could have been heat. Could have been a heart attack. It's hard to say. He was very excited about this thing. So they basically put him into a home for the mentally disturbed or distraught or whatever. And of course, John somehow comes out, or sorry, not John, Stephen Stephen, the dad, comes out of this strange state and asks to see John. John arrives to visit his father. When his father tells him this incredible tale about what happened in the tomb, he said that he read from the scroll and unknowingly brought Karis, played by Christopher Lee, back to life, a mummified high priest of Karnak. He was so surprised and startled that it gave him a big scare, and he basically went catatonic for 3 years. But he believes that Karis will come for him again and that he has been cursed. John is like, haha, funny story, Dad. Thanks. All right, see you later. It's been real. Pieces out, and that evening, his father is weirdly murdered by Karis, who breaks into his soundproof room. It's really a beautiful scene where the mental institute guys are like, now we're going to lock you in this padded room and we won't be able to hear you no matter how loud you scream or kick. But here's a little button you can press and that'll call us. And so as the mummy starts to break into the room, he starts running around screaming, banging on the door. And then only once he gets in there does he run over to the button to press it. And it's too late. He gets strangled and murdered by a thin, nicely stiff moving mummy. Which is very exciting stuff. So what has happened? Well, geez, Mehemet, that Egyptian who was so hot and bothered about them going into that room, has got himself a beautiful English estate just up the road. And he has decided to send for a casket filled with ancient relics that he's getting sent back to him. The men he hired to deliver this is probably the best scene in the movie. They're these carriage guys who are so drunk. It is ridiculous. And it's one thing to have like a drunk driving scene, but to have a drunk carriage driving scene is a whole nother thing. They're like, you're too drunk to drive the carriage. No, you're too drunk. And they're just absolutely nightmare fuel. So they drunk drive this carriage in such a way that the casket ends up getting flung off into a giant mud pit.
Oh,
and weirdly, though, Mehemet, who goes to check this out, does not seem too freaked out about it, even though it's flown all the way from, or shipped all the way from Egypt. He's like, it's no big deal. These things happen. So when everyone's gone, he then stands over the pit and reads from an ancient scroll. And who should emerge but a very muddy Christopher Lee, who he then, of course, basically gets him to do his bidding and get revenge on everyone who sullied the tomb, which is just the 3 guys, apparently. I don't know. Maybe he murdered a bunch of people in Egypt first and then came over. But he's really angry at this family. John is, meanwhile, trying to figure out what happened to his murdered father. And he's going through his papers because I guess he's never done that before. And he's looking into his research, and he discovers that even though they were looking for the Princess Ananka tomb and had no clue where it was, his father knew a surprisingly large amount about what happened that day of her death and this thing that no one seemed to know, but apparently he knew everything. And so we do a nice little flashback of Princess Ananka having died on a pilgrimage, and the high priest Karis was actually really in love with her, but their love was forbidden. This should sound familiar. But because she was destined to basically just be born for Karnak, the god. And she was not meant to be with any other man. But once she was dead, the deal was off. So Karis goes ahead and finds the scroll of life or whatever. He then reads off of it, but right before he's about to finish, she starts to flutter her eyes. She's going to waken from the dead. They're going to be together. He gets caught. And the other high priests cut out his tongue, mummify him, and stick him in a room in her tomb to watch over her for all of eternity and make sure that no one bothers her. Aww. So it is his job to look after lovingly this woman who he almost raised from the dead. They could almost be together, but were not. So he is on a murder spree to make sure that nobody touches his woman or her giant tomb again. At this point, we get it kind of becomes Frankenstein. So he kills, I actually looked away for a minute and missed the death of Joseph. So I was like, oh, did he die? I guess he's dead. Okay, cool. And then of course the mummy's going after John. John thinks he can outwit Mehmet, and goes over to his place and is like, hey, pretending he doesn't know who he is. Hey, are you new here, sir? Let's talk about things. Let's rap. And there was just the most passive aggressive, like 30 minutes of back and forth, like, it sure would be an awful thing of someone to desecrate a tomb. Sounds like you care a lot. Oh, I don't care. I'm not the kind of person who cares. Secretly, mummy in corner, like waiting to pounce. It's fine. So there's a few more twists and turns. It turns out that John's wife looks identical to the princess.
Surprise.
So yeah, exactly. Once he gets saved because she yells out at the mummy, "Don't do it!" when he's about to strangle John, and then he's like, "Oh my God, the beautiful woman! This is who I was in love with after all." And it's fine. The townspeople, everybody runs after him with guns. Guns do nothing because he's just like basically dust. So, which is kind of cool. So when he gets shot, just dust flings out of him and he just keeps going. It ends up everything ends in the swamp. Bullets have done nothing to the mummy this whole time. And yet, apparently, now that he's in a swamp, and if they all aim and shoot at the same time, that's the ticket. He gets shot a bunch, and then credits just immediately go. They're like, we're out, we're done, story over. I was like, whoa, you guys, okay, I guess we are done with this film.
There you go. And no after credits scene.
We are done. We're done and dusted. So this film, it's fine. I was hoping for a lot more. I would say the mummy is really neat. I think he looks cool. There's they show off the ritual of burying the princess, and that's kind of cool. There's a lot of costumes going down, but it is slightly sullied by a enormous amount of brown face.
Oh no!
Oh, jeez.
There are a hell of a lot of white dudes with stuff smeared on their face, including Christopher Lee.
Sure, yeah.
Very awkward, very uncomfortable. And then for good measure, they throw in, because England, they have a lot of a large Indian population. So there's a lot of Indian guys. There's some black dudes. Not a lot of actual Egyptians involved in this film, aside from the one guy who's actually from Cyprus. There's a lot of talking and not showing. There are accents that are wildly from all over the place. I think the inspector who's trying to investigate the murder is American. I don't know. This is crazy. Why Mehmet cares and like followed them there. It's like the deed is done, and anyway, whatever. He's very fanatical. But it was really fun to watch Christopher Lee kind of doing a sort of Frankensteinian, like, okay, I don't get the opportunity to talk much, but I have to perform, and that's really cool. A little bit of trivia. The door through which Sir Christopher Lee must crash through, because he does do a lot of like, I'm just gonna fucking Kool-Aid man my way through every given wall I can. He really does. He's like, boom, I'm here now, mommy. To the point where I was like, are they just not going to fix that wall? Nope, because he's coming again. I guess one of the PAs or somebody on set had accidentally bolted it before the scene was shot. So Christopher Lee's shoulder was dislocated when he broke down the door, and but the shot remains in the movie. There was squibs used from when Peter Cushing shoots Christopher Lee, and it left burn marks on him for a few weeks.
Jeez.
And Christopher Lee threw out his back when he was trying to carry the girl who played the fake princess. So Christopher Lee's mummy walk isn't entirely acting. Besides the injuries to his back and his shoulder, he was also injured his knees and shins while doing scenes in the studio tank swamp, that giant mud pit that he comes out of. He couldn't see, because it really is very murky. He couldn't see where all the various pipes and fittings were under the swampy water there, so he kept banging into stuff. It's a tough gig for him. Maybe that's why they didn't pour stuff on him in your movie, Eric, maybe on top of him, because they were like, he's been through enough.
Doing it.
I refuse, you guys. Hammer Films had already done remakes of The Curse of Frankenstein and The Horror of Dracula in this, but this was the first film made after Hammer reached an official agreement with Universal Pictures allowing them to do remakes of the classic horror films. So that's why he was allowed to use the name Karis.
Yeah.
For the scenes involving the discovery of the tomb and the funeral procession of Princess Anaka, the unit moved from Hammer's home base at Bray Studios to the larger Shepperton Studios to take advantage of leftover jungle sets from Hammer's recently wrapped war film, Yesterday's Enemy. Of course they did. Stephen Banning's nursing home room is a set recycled from The Man Who Could Cheat Death. I love that they just do that kind of crap. It makes me so happy. Between them and Doctor Who. The box containing the Scroll of Life was a reproduction of an original found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. So that was kind of cool that they, even though I thought it looked pretty hokey, it seems like they did try pretty hard to replicate things. And originally the scenes of Karis's tongue being cut out and the shotgun demise were more graphic, but they were trimmed for the British censor. And that's all the trivia I got.
Well, shoot, this sounds a little disappointing.
I will say I felt like I chose kind of poorly. You know how Deadpool, and the first time he shows up in one of the X-Men movies, they like sewed his mouth shut. And you're like, but he's Deadpool. I had those feels. I was like, Christopher Lee's like mouth is pretty well like plastered shut through this. And I was like, I wish I could see him do a little more.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. Well, the brown face is a bummer, but you'll be pleased to know that does not happen in my film.
Woo!
Instead, it is yellow face.
Oh, no.
And that is the face of Fu Manchu.
Oh, God.
You have been tried and condemned of crimes almost without number. Your efforts to build an empire of crime have today brought you to the end you so richly deserve. Death to Fu Manchu.
The face of Fu Manchu.
There's a man whom I thought was dead. Now I believe he's still alive. He's cruel, callous, brilliant, and the most evil and dangerous man in the world. He used as his most trusted servants a gang of Burmese dacoits and taught them to strangle their victims with these prayer scarves from Tibet.
From this fog-shrouded graveyard in London's Limehouse, the evil genius of Dr. Fu Manchu stalks its victims. Christopher Lee as the merciless Dr. Fu Manchu, who cast a black shadow of fear across innocent lives. Nigel Green as the Assistant Commissioner at Scotland Yard, pitted against a master criminal who dreamed of world domination. Joachim Fuchsberger. Karin Dor. Her life was balanced against the fate of millions. Tsai Chin as Lin Tan, daughter of Fu Manchu. Guest star James Robertson Justice.
Heading eastward from the Museum of Oriental Studies. It must be stopped.
£1965, a budget of £150,000. Vanessa, can you convert that to kilograms for me?
If this was 10 years ago when I lived there, I could tell you exactly how much it was.
Box office of $1.3 million. So much like, was that last episode where you had that kind of situation?
Yeah.
They didn't want to convert. I actually tried to figure out what 150,000 pounds or what $1.3 million might have been back then.
You can't.
And it was like, why can't I just tell what the conversion rate was of a certain year?
Because it wildly varies. When I was living in England, it was 2-to-1, and now it's nothing like that.
Yeah.
So,
directed by Don Sharp. Oh, wait, sorry. Critics, the Rotten Tomatoes, 80%.
Oh.
The audience, 30%.
Oh, my.
Yeah, probably
Wow.
did not age well.
That's what I thought, but we'll get into this as we go. Directed by Don Sharp, 38 credits, including Kiss of the Vampire, Rasputin, the Mad Monk, and Death Whalers, which I spoke about a couple months ago. Written by Harry Allen Towers. He has 60 writing credits under the name Peter Welbeck, including all of Hammer's Fu Manchu movies, although he must have written one of them with the writer from your film, Eric, which was, what was it? Dr. Sadism's House of Horribilism?
Dr. Regula's House of Horror, written by Manfred Ular.
Yeah, so I know that his list had one Fu Manchu movie on it. He also wrote 10 Little Indians and The Mangler, the really bad Stephen King adaptation.
Oh,
jeez.
But he has 115 producing credits under his own name, Harry Allen Towers. And then, of course, also given a writing credit on this is Sax Rohmer, 45 credits, all of them Fu Manchu movies, since they were all based on his original novels. This stars Christopher Lee as Fu Manchu.
Oh.
I saw that coming.
You might remember him from Return from Witch Mountain or Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf.
I love that movie.
Nigel Green, he's got 100 credits. He was Hercules in Jason and the Argonauts. He was in The Mask of the Red Death, Countess Dracula. And then Karen Dorr, who was also in Eric's movie.
Yeah.
She's got 74 credits, including The Strangler of Blackmore Castle, The Secret of the Black Widow, and You Only Live Twice. Are you guys familiar at all with the Fu Manchu character?
No.
No.
A little bit. I've seen scenes from it, but it's not the movie.
This would be a tough movie to walk in on because even though this is Christopher Lee's first Fu Manchu film, you are kind of expected to know who this character is.
Oh.
It opens with the execution of Fu Manchu.
Oh.
And you should have read all of the books and seen all of the films from the 40s and even maybe read the Marvel comics, because in the comics, Shang-Chi is the son of Fu Manchu.
Oh, so he's a bad guy.
His father is a bad guy.
I mean, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Fu Manchu is a bad
Fu
guy.
Manchu is a criminal mastermind.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah. So he's beheaded in the very first scene, which is witnessed by his lifelong nemesis, Nayland Smith. I always like the name Nayland, but I'm like, where did this come from? This must have been very old British. Back in London, however, a series of grisly stranglings that seem to be the MO of Fu Manchu has Smith pretty sure that what he actually saw was the execution of a double. And we found out it was. It was a guy that Fu Manchu had hypnotized to pretend to be him and then got killed.
Wow.
So yes, the villain is back in London, and he has kidnapped the esteemed Professor Muller, whose research holds the key to a deadly poison that can be made from the seeds of a rare Tibetan flower, the Black Hill poppy.
Ooh.
Yes, the seed of this poppy is sometimes referred to as the seed of life, and Tibetans spoke legends of it being the secret to eternal life. But Fu Manchu has discovered that a pint of this poison, weaponized, is powerful enough to kill every person and animal in London.
Whoa.
I was like,
and animal.
yeah, I was like, well,
including the
guess
flying
what?
ones.
This is to really nail down what an asshole this guy is.
Yeah, no kidding.
It'll kill your dogs too. What do you think of that?
Goldfish dead.
Right. So to prove this, he then demonstrates the strength of the poison on the Essex village of Fleetwick. The poison is sprayed overhead from an airplane and then kills the entire population of almost 3,000 people, including the guards that the army had set up to stop him from doing anything. So I guess they didn't realize how he was going to release the spray. So Nayland Smith and his men are on the case. They start snooping around and doing top detective work, you guys. They're finding first they find the source of the poppy seeds that make the poison, and then they bust the dealer who is secretly in cahoots with Fu Manchu. Meanwhile, Professor Muller has refused to divulge the secrets of the black poppy seeds because the black poppy seeds is not the poison. The poison comes from it, and only he knows how to make it. So Fu Manchu kidnaps his daughter.
Sure.
And then they start torturing somebody else in front of his daughter and him, basically saying, this is what's going to happen. And that actually works.
Sure.
I feel like if I was kidnapped, they wouldn't have to torture me. They could just show them torturing somebody else and they go, you're next. And I'd be like, I will tell you whatever the fuck you want.
And I'll get to keep my fingers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I will. Yes, I will make up shit.
Right.
In fact, just give me a script of what you want to hear. So the professor then reveals that the documents that show how you can turn this poppy into poison are currently locked in a vault that only a different professor has access to.
Oh my God, there's so
And
many
it's-
people.
And it's in a museum. So while Smith and his spy network is trying to infiltrate Fu Manchu's organization, Fu Manchu's daughter is doing the same to them. And I really kind of liked this because she is also a character in the Shang-Chi comics of the 70s.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
Shang-Chi's sister.
Huh.
Anyhow, she's like wearing disguises and she's dropping listening devices in their top secret office and all this espionage shit that I was really having a good time with. Much like your movie, Eric, Fu Manchu or Christopher Lee doesn't show up for a lot of this. He shows up for the beginning scene to get executed, and then the rest of this is like, holy shit, he's around, but he's, kind of pops in every couple of, I don't know, 15 minutes or something for a scene.
Get the name on the marquee.
Yeah,
kind of
because
role.
the interesting thing about the Fu Manchu stuff is he is this diabolical, evil bad guy, but the hero of all the books is Nayland Smith.
Mm.
And so it's always him and his organization trying to stop Fu Manchu from doing something. And really what happens is Fu Manchu shows up at the beginning of something. This is what I'm going to do. And then it's a 007 movie or book until Fu
Right.
Manchu shows up at the end and they have a confrontation, which is just
Ah.
like this movie. After going to the museum where the vault is, they end up in this fantastic brawl that they win. And but when they're leaving, the curator has my favorite line. He says, "Wait a minute, you can't leave the museum littered with dead Chinese."
Oh, jeez.
Oh my
Good
God.
Lord.
Huh.
Oy.
Anyway, Fu Manchu gets the formula to make the poison, but Smith and his associates figure out where his base is under the Thames River in this very cool evil lair, and they figure out, oh, we're going to flood this place. He doesn't know we're coming. We're going to flood it with the river. They bust in, they start fighting everybody, and they start flooding it, but they can't find Fu Manchu. Well, he has escaped. He's taken the professor with him and back to Tibet. So now, this is also one of those, globe trotting.
Yeah. I'm getting
it's-
that feeling.
It's very much a 60s espionage film.
Mm.
So they have to go to Tibet and they need to rescue the professor. But by this time, they get there to this big monastery and everything, and they know that Christopher Lee has all the poppy, he has the formula, the papers, and he has the professor. So Nayland Smith goes in there and he rescues the professor, and the professor's like, "It's too late. He's got everything." And Nayland Smith seems very not bothered by this at all. He's just like, what's important is getting you out of here on time. So they do get him out of there on time. And what will happen? There is a great scene with Fu Manchu going, "I wonder why he didn't worry so much that I've got all this information." And he kind of moves something, and buried in all of the poppy seeds is a very large bomb that Nayland Smith has planted there. And we see it explode. What will happen? Was Fu Manchu killed? Well, I'm not going to say anything, but there are 4 more Fu Manchu movies after this. So you do the math.
Maybe it's doubles. Maybe it's more of his doubles that have been hypnotized.
Right. I had a really good time with this movie. It is, there is a sense of humor to this that I wasn't expecting.
Mm.
And I had a really good time with this. I am not a huge Fu Manchu fan. My only care for the character has been from the Shang-Chi comics. I tried to read the novels. The novels were written in like the 30s.
Oof.
They're, there's a
Little
lot of
rough.
yellow peril stuff going on in them. But that's not the worst. The worst is that they're just kind of so-so in the
Yeah.
writing also.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. Trivia. In New York City, there was a municipal election being held at the time of this movie's release, and a very creative publicist had posters declaring Fu Manchu for mayor printed.
Oh.
Fu Manchu ultimately wound up with a considerable write-in vote on Election Day.
Yes.
So that's really all the trivia I have here. I decided to look up a couple of reviews because I thought for sure I was going to find some super woke reviews, and that's how we got to this 30% audience rating, right? But I couldn't find any.
Yeah.
Every place I looked was a bunch of really good reviews for this film. So I think maybe Rotten Tomatoes just kind of arbitrarily decided it couldn't be good for political reasons. Because
I mean, if somebody comes in and just puts in 2 stars, 2 star, whatever, but doesn't actually write anything, that still would count against.
I guess so. Still, I found one review by Wayne F. that I thought I would have seen more of like this. This is from December 5th, 2007, which is important.
In the year 2007.
This would have been good if 95% of the Chinese were actually played by Orientals and not just white people with a tan.
Oh, no, you
But they
guys.
didn't do that sort of casting much in those days. So let me just tell you, super woke people, just be aware that the things you say today will most likely be offensive tomorrow.
Well, Orientals has been off the market for decades, and that's not a new woke thing.
Not to Wayne.
Wayne doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, Wayne. Do better.
There's a lot to be offended by in this film, and if you're one of those people who wants to be offended by this stuff, you will certainly be offended by it. So I would steer you away from a movie like this. That being said, I thought it was a fine movie, a little clunky in spots, and a couple of slow things, but I don't know, it was fun. This is also a Hammer film, so
Yeah. Did all 3 of us have Hammer films on?
No,
Oh,
I didn't.
yours wasn't. Okay.
Mine, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody came across it and watched it not knowing the title, going, "Oh, I don't know this Hammer film," because it looked like a Hammer film.
I was sure it was one.
Yeah, no.
probably then what was that? What was the other one? Amicus or something like that was the other British.
It's a no, it's not Amicus either. No, this is from Severin, I believe. It's a box set of Eurocrypt of Christopher Lee.
Oh.
And it's like 4 or 5 films that he did in Europe, non-Hammer, and before he came to the U.S. So
Oh,
it's just a
cool.
weird little neutral area of kind of ignored stuff of his.
Right.
I feel like this was a really, really good topic, but I would definitely do it again sometime because I want another spin.
I got 4 more Fu Manchu movies to get through.
Just do all of them in one. Don't pull it off.
A lot of the critics were saying that this was definitely the best of the Fu Manchu films that he was in. So I probably won't search out the rest of them. Anyhow, Vanessa, that means that the next topic is yours.
Oh, I'm so excited. So I've been wanting for a little bit to do a topic, which now that we're entering spring, I think this is the perfect time for just looking into folk horror, which is a topic I really enjoy. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot more stuff that's been released because of the big box set that came out from
Severin.
Yeah.
Not my favorite, but I suppose it's only fair considering you had to do a disco.
For Christ's sake.
Well,
I'm going to get a bumper sticker that says never again. It has a little disco ball on it. No one will understand, but it'll be, oh, jeez.
Okay, with that in mind, though, we should say thanks to all the people who are participating in the value for value model. We really appreciate that. And if you're new to the podcast and you don't know what that is, if you get some kind of value out of this podcast and you feel like you want to give back, you can either put a number, you can assign a price to the value you got and send it our way, or you can like and share posts, or you can leave reviews for us, all of that stuff. I will say this on the review part. I listen to other podcasts and they're always like, please leave a 5-star review, 5-star review, 5-star only review and stuff like that. Just leave an honest review.
Yeah.
Leave an honest review. But if you do like us at all, 5 makes a difference. The way the algorithms work.
You keep saying that, but we don't know how the algorithms work.
Dive into Buzzsprout and all the stuff where they talk about how if you're not a 5, you're you might as well be a 1 or a 2.
Well,
Wow.
if you do leave a 1 or a 2-star review, just tell us what it is you didn't like
Yes.
about it.
Oh, yeah,
we would
definitely.
love to know.
That would
Unless
be-
it's about me. I'm not interested in hearing that shit.
Especially
or leave us a
if it's
5-star
about
review
Kelly.
and talk shit about Kelly. I would love that.
Also, know that when you leave a 5-star review, you should let us know that you did that and then assign Eric a movie that you want him to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Give me some crap.
Right. Okay. So that's it for the episode. Thanks again for everybody listening. And we will be back in 1 week talking folk horror.
Yeah.
Strange Eons Radio is artisanal quality podcasting, handcrafted with all natural ingredients, and edited to perfection by Eric Morgret. Our blistering theme song is Strange Eons Part 1 by the band Nightshade and is used with permission. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider dropping a positive review on Apple Podcasts.
Is he like a health doctor? Like, here, take these, drink this prune juice.